I'm about to tell you a story about a pastor who got murdered by his mistress, and I need you to do me a favor. Don't immediately write her off as crazy. Not yet. Hear me out first. Because LaTosha Daniels pulled the trigger. Yeah, she drove from Arkansas to Tennessee with a loaded weapon. And yeah, she shot this man in front of his wife. That's all facts. But the reason she did it? That's where this gets complicated. See, Broads Perry wasn't just some regular dude having an affair. He was a pastor. The kind of man people trust for spiritual guidance, moral leadership, all of that. And he was using that same charm, that same ability to make people believe him, to keep LaTosha on the hook for years. And at some point during this affair, and I'm going to be straight with you, this detail isn't confirmed in every source, but multiple reports mention it. LaTosha got pregnant, and Broads, this man who preaches about sanctity of life on Sundays, convinced her to get an abortion. Just sit with that for a second. She made that sacrifice, carried that weight, and then he moved to Memphis with his wife, started posting anniversary tributes on Facebook, and basically acted like LaTosha never existed. So when she showed up at his apartment on April 4th, 2019 with a gun, this wasn't just about a breakup. This was about a woman who realized she'd been used.
Social worker charged in the deadly shooting of a Memphis pastor at his home in Collierville. LaTosha Daniels is accused of killing Broads Perry in front of his wife last month. Investigators believe it was a love triangle gone sour.
Now, I'm not saying what she did was right, but I am saying there's more to this story than crazy mistress kills pastor. Way more. Alright, so let's break down who these people actually were, because context matters. Broads Perry, 36 years old, executive pastor at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church in Memphis, Tennessee. Big church, big congregation, big responsibility. But here's what makes his story different. Broads was a third-generation pastor. His grandfather was a pastor. His father was a pastor. And now he's carrying on that family legacy. Now think about the pressure that comes with that. You're not just representing yourself. You're representing 3 generations of ministry, your family's entire reputation, decades of community trust. That's the weight Broads was carrying every single day. Before Memphis, Broads worked at St. Mark Baptist Church in Little Rock, Arkansas, from 2014 to 2018. That's where this whole mess started, by the way. Keep that in mind. He was married to Tabitha. They'd been together for 5 years. And from the outside, they looked good. Church couple goals. In February 2019, just 2 months before he died, Broads posted on Facebook for Valentine's Day. "Thank you for navigating this thing called life with me. Happy 5th anniversary." With all the heart emojis and everything. Sweet. Right? Wrong. Because while he's posting that, there's a whole other woman in Arkansas who's seeing that post and probably losing her mind. But we'll get there. Now here's where I need to ask the uncomfortable questions. If you're a pastor, someone people look up to for moral guidance, how do you justify living a double life? You're standing in the pulpit every Sunday, talking about faithfulness, about integrity, about godly living. And then you're doing what exactly? You're counseling couples in your church about staying faithful. You're leading Bible studies about resisting temptation. And the whole time, you've got a mistress in another state. The math isn't mathing, Broads. Now, I'm not saying what happened to him was deserved. Nobody deserves to be murdered. But we can acknowledge that this man made some choices that set everything in motion. And those choices have names. they have consequences. So let's talk about the other person in this triangle. LaTosha Daniels, 39 years old. And when I tell you this woman was educated, I mean it. LaTosha had a doctorate in social work with a criminal justice concentration. Dr. LaTosha Daniels, if we're being proper about it. She was a licensed clinical social worker working at Root Behavioral Health in Little Rock. And here's the part where you're gonna laugh or cry, I haven't decided which. Her specialty was anger management and domestic violence counseling. Read that again. Anger management. So LaTosha spent her entire career sitting across from people saying things like, when you're upset, take a deep breath. Count to 10. Use your words, not violence. And then she went and did the exact opposite of everything she'd been teaching for years. It's like a dentist with rotten teeth, a financial advisor who's broke, a marriage counselor on their 5th divorce. The irony is truly next level here. Like, ma'am, did you skip all of your own workshops? Because clearly those techniques did not stick. But here's the thing, and this is important. LaTosha didn't just wake up one day and decide to throw her entire life away. Something broke her, and that something was a man who made promises he never intended to keep. So how did Broads and LaTosha even meet? Remember I told you Broads worked at St. Mark Baptist Church in Little Rock from 2014 to 2018. That's where their paths crossed. Both of them living in the same city, moving in similar circles. And at some point, they started an affair. Now, let me be very clear about something before you all start feeling too sorry for LaTosha. She knew this man was married. She saw the ring. She knew about Tabitha. This wasn't some situation where Broads hid his wife from her or lied about being single. LaTosha went into this relationship with her eyes wide open, knowing he had a whole wife at home. So we're not going to sit here and act like she's some innocent woman who got deceived about his marital status. She made a choice, a conscious adult choice to be the other woman. She's 39 years old with a doctorate. She's not some naive 20-year-old who didn't know better. But did Broads probably feed her some lines? Oh, absolutely. I can almost hear them now. My marriage isn't what it looks like from the outside. We're only staying together for appearances. I have real feelings for you. When the timing's right, we'll be together. All the greatest hits. The Cheater's Playbook, page 1. And LaTosha probably believed him. Or maybe she didn't fully believe him. But she wanted to believe him. So she ignored all the red flags waving right in her face. Here's what I think happened though. And this is where it gets really messy. At some point during their affair, LaTosha got pregnant. With Broads' baby. Now again, I'm being transparent with you. This pregnancy detail shows up in multiple reports, but isn't confirmed by every single news source. But enough sources mention it that I'm including it. Because honestly, it explains a lot about what happened next. So LaTosha's pregnant, with the baby of a married pastor. And you know what Broads did? He convinced her to get an abortion. Let me say that slower for the people in the back. This pastor, this man who probably preached about the sanctity of life, who probably led pro-life discussions in his church, convinced his mistress to terminate a pregnancy. Why? Because a baby would expose everything. Can't have that getting out, right? Can't have evidence of the affair crying and needing diapers. That would destroy his career, his family's legacy, his reputation, his marriage. So the baby had to go. And what do you think LaTosha heard from him during all of this? Promises. Once things settled down, we'll have our chance. This isn't the right time, but we'll have children together eventually. I just need to figure out how to leave my wife first. Whatever he needed to say to keep her compliant, to keep her quiet, to keep her hoping. So LaTosha makes that sacrifice. She goes through with the abortion. And I don't care what side of the abortion debate you're on personally. That's a massive decision. That stays with you. Especially if you're not making that choice for yourself, but to protect him, to protect his image, his career, his marriage. But here's the reality LaTosha should have seen coming. And maybe she did see it, but chose to ignore it. Broads was never going to leave his wife for her. Not necessarily because he didn't have feelings for her. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But he couldn't leave. This man is a third-generation pastor. His grandfather built this legacy. His father continued it. Now Broads is the executive pastor at a major church. His entire identity, his family's reputation, his career, his community standing, everything is tied to that position. You really think he's going to throw all of that away? Face the judgment from his family? The gossip from the church? The destruction of 3 generations of ministry? The disappointment in his father's eyes? The shame? That was never realistic. That was never the plan. So, what you've got here is 2 people living in complete fantasy land. Broads thinking he can juggle both lives indefinitely without consequences. LaTosha thinking she's going to be the exception to the rule, that she's special enough to make him actually leave. They were both delusional. So here's where everything starts falling apart. In 2018, Broads gets offered a bigger position. Executive pastor at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church in Memphis. Bigger church, bigger salary, bigger opportunity. And he takes it. Packs up with Tabitha and moves from Little Rock to Memphis. And where does that leave LaTosha? Sitting in Little Rock, alone, dealing with the emotional aftermath of an abortion she didn't want to have. Watching from a distance as Broads starts his shiny new life in Memphis. And then comes Valentine's Day, 2019, February 14th. And Broads posts that sweet tribute to Tabitha on Facebook. Thank you for navigating this thing called life with me. Happy 5th anniversary. I know LaTosha saw that post. You know she did. She was probably sitting there scrolling through Facebook, and bam, there it is. The man she sacrificed so much for, publicly declaring his love for his wife. And it's not even subtle. It's hearts and emojis and public declarations. He's not even trying to hide it. That's when it probably hit her. Like really truly hit her. He's not leaving his wife. He's never been planning to leave his wife. All those promises? All that when the timing's right talk? It was all manipulation to keep her available when he wanted her. She'd been used. She terminated a pregnancy for him. Kept his secret for years. Waited while he built his career and his image. And what did she get in return? Nothing. Not even the respect of a private breakup. Just silence, and a Facebook post celebrating his marriage. Now here's where it gets real. Does that justify what LaTosha did next? Absolutely not. But does it explain the rage? The feeling of betrayal? The realization that she threw away something irreversible for promises that were never real? Yeah, it does. Because here's what people don't understand about situations like this. It's not just about losing a relationship. It's about losing what you thought your future was. It's about realizing you were never the priority, never the plan, just a convenient option when he felt like it. And for someone like LaTosha, educated, successful, someone who should have known better, that realization probably hit different. She didn't just feel heartbroken. She felt stupid, used, discarded. And that's the kind of rage that builds when you can't process it, when you don't have healthy outlets, when all those anger management techniques you teach other people somehow don't work on yourself. So on April 4th, 2019, LaTosha Daniels got in her car in Little Rock, Arkansas. She drove 130 miles to Collierville, Tennessee. And she had a gun with her. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. This was planned. She had time during that 2.5-hour drive to turn around, to change her mind, to think about the consequences. But she didn't. April 4th, 2019. Around 10 p.m., Tabitha's home alone when LaTosha knocks. She lets her in. Why wouldn't she? Her husband said they were just acquaintances from Little Rock. They chat for 30 minutes. LaTosha's just waiting. Then Broads walks in. After about 10 minutes, LaTosha stands to leave. They walk her to the door. She turns around, pulls a gun, and starts firing. "You broke my heart!" Bang! "You broke my heart!" Bang!
Yeah, it was surprising. Definitely not expected here. I think there was like 5 or 6 gunshots in the first kind of blast, and then there was a little bit of a delay, a woman screaming, and then I heard some more, like probably 5 more. I saw him bring the gentleman down on a stretcher, and then I saw the woman come down, and she had obviously been shot in the shoulder.
Broads gets hit multiple times. Head, torso. Even dying, he tells Tabitha to run. LaTosha walks out, then comes back, tells Tabitha get out of the way, and shoots her in the shoulder. So, where exactly did that anger management certification go? LaTosha? Because I'm not seeing it. Tabitha escapes, bangs on neighbors' doors. Police arrive. LaTosha's still holding the gun. They hit her with a less lethal round to disarm her. Broads died at the hospital, 36 years old. So they take LaTosha to the hospital for minor injuries. And this doctor with a PhD tries to run. She shoves an officer and takes off through the hallways. Girl, where are you going? You're in a hospital with cops everywhere. You just shot 2 people. What's the exit strategy here? Because it's not adding up.
Docket number 19, ending 4009, those charges would be murder in the first degree, criminal attempt, misdemeanor, and possession of a firearm during commission of a felony. On docket number 19, ending 3940, that would be aggravated assault on a police officer, escape, and resisting arrest.
They tackle her in the hallway, have to force her into handcuffs while she's still fighting them. Now she's got murder charges plus assault on officers, escape, resisting arrest. The charges kept stacking. And as investigators dug deeper, the affair came to light. The pregnancy rumors, the whole messy situation. LaTosha pleaded not guilty, got a high-profile attorney, Leslie Ballin, who eventually withdrew because they disagreed on strategy.
Understanding what it's like to be in jail myself, I would imagine you get used to any of your surroundings, no matter how difficult they may be. So it appears she's adapting to where she is. She is better today than she was yesterday.
She couldn't afford another lawyer, so she got a court-appointed one.
Not only have we experienced the death of Brodus Perry to violence, but the rumors swelling around his murder leave us shocked and shaken. To those of you who are wondering, how could this happen? How could this happen within our safe and loving church community? To those of you in particular who came to know him as I did during the 5 months he was at Mississippi Boulevard, I want to say, I'm heavy-hearted because of your pain.
That's the question, right? How does a spiritual leader live a double life? How does someone trained in anger management become a murderer? Tabitha survived physically, but had to process her husband's murder and his betrayal simultaneously. That's trauma layered on trauma. LaTosha threw away her entire life, career, freedom, future, for a man who was never going to choose her. And Broads, he made choices that destroyed multiple lives, including his own. Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't just about one tragic night. It's about the choices that led there. The lies, the manipulation, the ignored reality. So before you write LaTosha off as just another crazy side chick, or defend Broads because he's a pastor, ask yourself, what happens when people prioritize image over integrity? When promises mean nothing? When we ignore consequences until they force us to face them? That's the real story here. If this case made you think, made you uncomfortable, or you've got opinions you need to share, drop them in the comments. Seriously, I read them. And if you want more stories like this, where we actually dig into the why instead of just the what, hit that subscribe button. We post true crime every week, and trust me, we don't sugarcoat anything. Thanks for sticking with me through this messy, tragic story. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, choices have consequences. Always. Choices have consequences. Always.
Mr. Raymond. Ms. Bailey. Good afternoon, Judge. Ms. Bloom and I are here. We are still in the information gathering stage. I certainly have talked to Ms. Daniels. Unfortunately, and not unsurprisingly, I can't tell you what I know. And so at this point, we just are continuing with our not guilty plea, absolutely. We come back May 14th. That is a probable cause or preliminary hearing. It is not a trial. The state has to put on proof to show the judge that there's enough evidence for the case to go further. The date you gave us, May 20.
We have May 14th,
May 14th.
we have May 28th, we have June 11th, and we have June 25th.
You'll set the 14th, and if she's going to have surgery,
You'll let us know.
That's
All right, so the request is May 14th. Mr. Gilbert's witness may have a health issue that would prohibit her from being here. If that, in fact, does occur, we'll address the court prior to the 14th. She's not used to being where she is. She's not feeling very well. She's accused of the most serious crime a person can be accused of. She understands the gravity of it, and I think her emotions are appropriate.